I did general, I think.
Oh, perfect. Yeah.
Oh, we're live now. What's up?
Awesome.
Should wait maybe a couple of minutes, a minute or two.
Before we dive in, yeah.
So I'm trying to make sure it actually did go live. Yes, there we are. We're on a little bit of a delay as well.
Cool. Just in case I say something just super, super offensive. You just mute me.
Okay.
It's interesting though. What
Do you give your plants names, or does your girlfriend?
There's some that have names.
Like
I think if you like the succulents, I think we had 6 for a while that were all named after members of the cast of Lost, and I think the only one that survived was like Sawyer, and the rest of them died off.
You know what, that checks out.
Succulents aren't a thing anymore.
What a great, terrible show.
Seriously. All right.
Let me do a quick refresh, and then do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, definitely. Got a couple people in here. We can wait a little bit longer if we want. And then I guess just to make sure chat's working and everything like that, if anybody wants to just announce who they are in the chat, I know we have Leah in here. I don't know who else, but send that over to the chat just to make sure we got that working, and we'll dive in. Great.
Sweet.
Hey, Sarah.
Demand gens. Have you ever thought about starting a podcast?
Absolutely not. It's one of those things that I could just never get behind. I feel like no matter how good I could be at something, I feel like there's one of those situations where if you're just ego wise, I could never do it. I feel like it's not important enough for me to say things that everybody needs to hear there. So yeah.
Oh, that's a bummer. I feel like we're missing out.
I'll just stick with these live events and UserGems podcasts, and I'll be happy with that.
Okay.
Like week after week, that's something I could do.
Fair enough.
Awesome. We got some people in here. I guess let's dive into some questions. Leah, Sarah, anybody else? Ask away, and I'm gonna dive into some questions. I guess while y'all are typing those out, I'll just do a quick intro. I'm Isaac Ware at UserGems. I'm director of demand gen here. My background is heavy in agency stuff, so e-com, some B2B, SaaS, all over the place. Never really niched down early on. I think it was really beneficial though, just because I was able to see all sorts of industries, see what was working in e-commerce and how to translate that to B2B, and vice versa. But yeah, at UserGems now, been here coming up on 7 months, I believe. Time has flown by, and it's been awesome here. Working with the whole team here, getting to know everybody, and kind of see us grow from that 15 to 50 mark. So 50 plus mark actually now. So yeah. If you guys have any questions, no matter what they are, whether they're demand gen related, marketing related, e-commerce related, whatever, just dive in and ask away, and I'm happy to answer any of those.
And while we wait, I have collected some questions ahead of time. Some are silly and some are serious. So I want to start with a serious one. I would love to know, or maybe it was Leah who wanted to know, what are the most common mistakes you see other demand gen people make, like on a regular basis?
Yeah, definitely. So I think with demand gen, a lot of the mistakes that are made, or even just marketing, whether it's growth marketing or demand gen in general, like a lot of the mistakes that are made are unintentional, or it's a mistake that's made because of metrics that are their KPIs that are put in place on them, or their goal numbers, or what metrics they're looking at or forced to look at. For instance, a lot of marketers or demand gen are still lead heavy, and you can be a lead heavy demand gen person, or lead gen heavy demand person, without diving heavily into gated content and stuff like that. And I think one of the main issues that causes is you get a lot of lead gen oriented goals. A lot of times people's first reaction in marketing is to jump to gated content and stuff like that. And gated content can work in certain situations, but a lot of the time what I see is using it as an only source of pipeline. And what that leads to is heavy bounce rates, heavy just no interest on the sales side of things. So ADRs get this huge list of leads of people that have consumed gated content, and now it's on the ADRs to close them. It's out of marketing's hands. So if your KPIs are all lead based and they're not revenue based or pipeline based, your sales team a lot of the time can hate you just because they're the ones now they're with the revenue goals, but they're working with leads that were not generated with revenue in mind. So I think that's one of the biggest mistakes. I don't think it's on the demand gen people. I think it's whatever goals were set early on, or just the mindset of the company. Luckily, we've done a good job of balancing lead gen and demand gen here at UserGems, I believe. But it's definitely a tough balance.
Yeah, it sounds like it. It sounds like a lot of it comes down to having team alignment.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. I think I made a post a little while back, and one of the things I think marketers should look at when they're going for a new marketing job is take a look at sources like RepView to look at how happy the sales team is, how their compensation is, are they hitting their goals, things like that before you go to a company. Because if you have a company where a sales team is only hitting like 20% or something like that, or of their now you're jumping in there kind of already in a losing situation where sales already isn't happy with marketing. So now you're jumping in there. They're not going to like you. It's really hard to work with a sales team that doesn't like you. Vice versa. I think sales, if marketing's always blaming sales, it's a tough one to swing.
Yeah, well, that's a really hot tip right there. I wouldn't have thought of that. We have a good question. How can you or do you work with sales to generate high quality leads that sales are actually excited about?
Yeah, definitely. That's a huge one here. So a lot of the time we have the buyer journey, targeting is dead on, everything like that. Just making sure that you're targeting the right people and you're passing the right people over to sales. So I think it's right around 80% of our leads right now are ICP. That makes your relationship with sales a lot easier when you're passing over ICP leads to them. We already know they're qualified for the most part. And then a lot of it too is just passive stuff, like hopping on their calls, like their gong calls, listen to their recordings, things like that, see how they're talking about the product, and then relay that over to your messaging too. So there's unity between marketing messaging and what's actually being said on the sales calls. Not just what's been defined or anything like that. Just really make sure you're working closely with sales and looking at all that.
Yeah. And I think that like our sales team does a really good job of pointing out when a really great lead comes in and they're like super pumped about it.
Yeah. And then also I was watching the chat, Kevin, I was just looking at that. Sarah answered that really well. So it's an amazing tool across the board for marketing and for sales. I know our ADR team absolutely loves it. And one of the things that people get really excited about with the tool is ADR teams, a lot of the time I've heard, are out there daily looking at LinkedIn to pull leads for their ABM program, or they're having to do a lot of manual work to actually pull that. Companies that use UserGems and us internally, what we do is we have our set ABM stuff that comes from UserGems. So all those accounts, all those perfect contacts that come through, ADRs, SDRs do not have to actually go manually hunting them down, everything like that. And the benefit of it is that goes right into our marketing automation as well. So all our paid media is targeting the exact same people that ADRs and SDRs are reaching out to, because a lot of the time it's just so tough to actually expect SDRs and ADRs to just do everything manually, like hunting down leads, defining them, making sure the contact information is correct, everything like that, especially with CRM data being what it is. So just that the automation of the whole process is amazing.
Sarah wanted to know, have you ever done any non-standard or like really bold things for your demand gen campaigns?
There's some ones that I would definitely call more bold that have gotten in queue, but then got disapproved before they got launched. I think they were really spicy. I don't think I can go into exactly what they were going to be, but they were going to be real fun. But we have some fun that are more non-traditional stuff for demand gen campaigns that go actually a little bit further than typical marketing goes, so further into the funnel. So we actually have campaigns that are for multi-threading. So typically, once leads come in as a demo request, usually it's out of marketing's hands for the most part. We like to follow them a little bit longer. So we actually launch campaigns that multi-thread open opportunities. So they use Salesforce information on the leads that have come through UserGems data. But once they enter into that first stage of the opportunity, we actually have campaigns that are segmented by persona. So marketing, sales, rev ops, where marketing is getting marketing specific ads, rev ops, sales, all saying, hey, insert persona there. Hey, marketing, your team just let us know that they need warmer pipeline or something like that, to get them interested in the opportunity, kind of start that conversation internally. And that's one of the ones that I get screenshotted and sent to me the most are those multi-thread ads, either asking how they're doing or just like being very interested in the thought process behind it. But it works well because I think twofold. One of them is a lot of the time they won't click and actually convert to a demo at being added into the demo request. But one of the benefits of it is now that person has seen UserGems, they've seen that somebody else in their company is talking to UserGems about it. So if it ever gets to them where they have to be pulled in, they automatically know who we are. They know somebody at their company has been talking to them, and because of that, they've already done that research. And then also it can be a direct add in there, so they can actually convert to a demo request to be added into that opportunity as well. So it helps the sales team kind of push that along as well. The more people we can get in, the better in those decision-making roles.
Are multi-thread campaigns kind of a new thing? Is this something that you came up with?
I don't know if I'm the one that came up with them. We did them just because multi-threading is something that happens through email anyways. And if it works through email, a lot of the time we can get it to happen through paid media. So I'm sure other people are out there doing it. I don't know if I've been segmented into one. Some other people might be in those higher decision-making roles, but it's pretty effective.
Yeah. I'm going to go to my prepared questions for you.
Definitely.
Are the plants behind you real?
Absolutely. Thank goodness my girlfriend keeps them alive for my Zoom background. But yeah, the house is full of them, and I get a few of them for my office.
Do you have a favorite?
Oh, favorite plant?
Yeah, favorite plant.
I do have one. There's one in the other room that's like 8 feet tall now. We bought it when it was like 1.5 feet tall, and it's just been going since then. It's like Dracaena limelight or something like that, but it's taller than me, and it's touching the ceiling now. We're not actually sure what to do with it after a certain point, but it's definitely my favorite.
Sweet. What are some of the best professional wins that you've had in demand gen?
I would say what's happening here at UserGems is one of my favorites. I think one of the main things is just the quality that's coming through is exceptional. I mean, I mentioned it earlier, but like 80% of our demo requests that come, 80% of our demo requests that come through are ICP accounts. And our only call to action right now is demo request. We don't do gated content. There might be a couple pieces on the site that you could hunt down if you really felt like it, just do the additional content. But we don't push gated content as a lead gen method. So we have buyer journey campaigns to kind of work people through that awareness, the social proof, the case studies, testimonials, everything like that. And then we do have a couple hard asks but they're always for demo requests, and they're usually after the companies are pretty warm. But yeah, that's been one of my main ones. And then previous life at the agency, had some fun wins with some crazy ROI numbers in like the 60 times ROI and above. Those are always fun.
Yeah, sweet. That's crazy.
Courtney, your comment, do you think there's still a place for gated content in resource centers? I do. I think the further in we get, we might go more gated content, but just on ultra valuable content. I'm still very biased. I know our content director is still very biased towards ungated content, just because my thought process with it is, if you have 100 people land and 15% of them enter their email for the gated content and they consume it, that's awesome. Those people are really great. I still don't know how high intent those emails are going to be to ADRs. And that's what I'm really concerned about, is ADRs getting burnt out and quality there. But if we have 100 people land and 60% of them consume the content without entering their email, I would be more happy with those, that higher volume of people that have consumed the content, to now be able to retarget with paid media or email or anything like that, or have them reading the content and have chat reach out to them. That's just my bias. There are some companies that are just absolutely thriving off gated content and just really high volume. So I do still think there's a place for it, but I would say ultra high value, and also using it as a way to, in addition to this content, if you want to download this piece, or if you want to save this for later, here's this. We're actually going to be launching a checklist like that, where there's a checklist on the actual website for an audit for your first 100 days of the company in a marketing role. But if you want to save this for later and kind of use it to just check off, you can download it, enter your email, we'll send it to you. And that gives us a little bit of an intent there, and we're using that for our UserGems program. So yes, I still think there's a place. I think people are just always biased towards their side of things.
I think in marketing, people adopt a lot of hard and fast rules, and they like ride or die for them.
Yeah.
I'm actually curious if you have any like marketing rules that's the hill that you will die on.
Ooh. I think the one that just drives me nuts is B2B ads on paid media are just exceptionally boring. And I don't know who here is running B2B ads, especially in the SaaS space. I think there's just that like typical early 2000s look to the ads, where they have the frame on it and like the swooping lines and the ton of text and like stock photos of people in the ad and things like that. Those blend in, especially if you're running LinkedIn ads. And I think that's one of the reasons for the longest time, I was like, LinkedIn just does not work for B2B and stuff like that. In theory, it seems awesome, but it doesn't work, is what I thought for the longest time. And I think the reason behind that was the type of ads that were being launched. Our ads now are really bold, bright colors, really playful. I'm running an ad right now that has like fireworks going off in the background of the text the whole time. And we use our teal, yellow, greens, everything like that, so they stand out in the feed. I think one company that was doing that really well to stand out visually was Pipe. They have that really bright green, they're just bold text, straight to the point. So boring B2B is the thing that I think is the reason a lot of people think LinkedIn doesn't work.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like that informs a lot of your thinking when you make ads, especially coming from an e-com mindset. Do you have any like e-com companies that you look to for inspiration?
A lot of the direct-to-consumer stuff, direct-to-consumer e-com companies have done a really good job. I know they're struggling now just because of the state of Facebook and everything like that, but they did a really good job early on, standing out, getting really good ads in, good messaging, good imagery, everything like that, and then colors too. I think that was it's probably a huge source of inspiration with a lot of our ads. Luckily, I came in and all our colors were already what I would want from a brand. So it was a good starting point. So thanks to the brand team on UserGems.
Yeah. Our VP of marketing once said that she bleeds teal, and I believe that. And I think that you and I do now too. How have you seen pipeline anxiety affect marketing strategies?
Yes. I think that kind of is going to be a callback to one of my previous answers, but pipeline anxiety leads people to do some silly things in marketing, I think. And having that stress to perform, and stress for pipeline, stress a lot of the time for marketing turns into stress for leads. So I think people can kind of, I saw it a lot with agency stuff where people would be just so impatient or pressuring for leads or pressuring for whatever, that you're forced into doing things that aren't optimal for the sales team or the actual ad campaign. So rushing performance or calling ads when they're too early or pushing lower quality, like call to actions, lower intent, or expanding your audience so you get a bunch of cheaper leads through, but they're not your decision makers. So I think pipeline anxiety can lead to a lot of stuff like that. And then it dribbles down from marketing team to the sales team, and then overall company gets impacted by it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Sarah says the panic is real.
It is. It is. Yeah, it's tough right now. I'm seeing it a lot from a lot of other demand gen. I was talking with another demand gen, another company, and they had one off month where paid social just wasn't producing, and upper management made them shut off all paid media just out of the blue. And it was tough because from my side, it was definitely a slower month for us and a lot of other people I talked to, but it's one of those where you just kind of wait it out. But some companies like that just either don't have the money for it or don't have the patience for it and will shut things off preemptively. And then getting it back up is a lot harder. Improving out in the future is a lot harder. So it's that the anxiety can be pretty impactful in a negative way.
I think that kind of bleeds into another question that I collected from the team. What keeps you up at night about demand gen?
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the things that for me is, I wouldn't say it necessarily keeps me up at night, but one of the things that's frustrating me is just always attribution. And it's one of those that if you're on marketing LinkedIn where you're following all those people, especially like Refine Labs and everything like that, attribution now is a nightmare for marketers. But as long as you can shift your mindset to let's look at overall pipeline and what's happening overall, and then also have that just there's some situations where you have to just say, my gut says this is contributing to this, or something along those lines. And one of the things you can do to kind of ease that is have that open text field for how you heard about UserGems. We've heard some really cool ones in there. I just made a post, I think last week about it. Somebody came through and they told me step by step, they searched for X, they went to this page, they read this piece of content, they submitted, and then they read some more or something like that. So it gives you some opportunities to see how people are interacting. Watch some site recordings off like Hotjar, just see people interacting with the site, what content they're consuming there. But then also just listen to sales calls or gong calls, because a lot of the time they'll mention it. I think I was listening to a gong call a little bit back and heard some crazy one where it was like they heard about us months ago and took a screenshot of an ad and sent it off to the team, and like that was the extent of what their interaction with UserGems was. And then somebody joined the company and mentioned, oh man, wouldn't it be so nice if we could track job changers? And it popped into his head. He's like, oh, well, and he remembered UserGems and came back and requested a demo. So there's some wild paths in marketing that are just untrackable. But listening to those calls can give you some insights.
Yeah. I just want to remind the people who are watching that you can drop your questions in chat. They don't all have to come from me, but I do have quite a few more. The people want to know what your hair care routine is. You have just long, gorgeous locks.
It's just dumb luck. Some days it looks great, and then if it doesn't look great that day, you pull it back in a bun or you put a hat on and just hope for the best. Yeah, there's zero skill involved now. I gave up on that.
I know that trick well. Okay,
Sarah, along those lines, is there a specific journey that you've seen that sticks out the most to you? I might have answered this before you actually got into it, but I think the one where people like screenshot an ad and it gets passed around a company and then somebody remembers it or somebody also sees an ad and then converts through that way. I think those are always really interesting to me, just how much is going on behind the scenes that person that converted never clicked on the ad. So there was no way for us to even know they were interested, no way to retarget them or anything like that. But there was still a really heavy interaction with our brand without any traceables, which I love seeing it. It's just really interesting to me. But also at the same time, I am a sucker for like our combo ads where they convert on the chat in LinkedIn and immediately pop up in Slack, and I know exactly where they came from. But at the same time, to that point, we also don't know all the ads that they saw before converting on a conversational ad. So they could have seen 12 different ads from us before, customer story ads, awareness ads, everything like that, and everything in between before they converted there, and maybe never clicked on a single one of those. So there's some interesting paths.
Yeah. I think so. You had mentioned earlier there's a little bit of trusting your gut in marketing, so it can't all just be like going by the data. How do you get to a point where you can trust your gut?
I think for me, a lot of it, I don't know. It's an interesting one. I think there's a little bit of marketing where there's some people that have a gut feeling about marketing and what would work. I think a lot of it is just being able to relate to who you're selling to. So working really closely with sales gives you a lot more empathy for sales, so you know what might resonate with them. And now that I've gotten to work a lot with RevOps with Josh on our team, I have a lot more empathy for his bandwidth and time and everything like that. And my messaging is switched more towards that. So I think it's really tough if you don't work closely with the people you're selling to. But at the same time, I think a lot of the gut feelings also come from being in agency before, where we actually didn't have terrible attribution yet, where before all that went down and everything like that, we were able to attribute really well to what was working, what's not, and really easily define what ads were working, what messages were working. And then you get a feel for it over time. I think that helped. I think just the volume at agencies where you're working with hundreds of clients, hundreds of customers, you get a feel for what works and what doesn't.
Yeah.
Taylor, must have marketing tech tools for demand gen.
Ooh.
I would say now that UserGems is one of ours. One of the biggest things that I've always struggled with that usually costs way too much or anything like that is audience building. And I think just the quality of our audiences. I mean, our audiences, for instance, we port our audiences into Salesforce. Our customers do as well. Those Salesforce audiences, when we export them to LinkedIn, they're matching at a 90+% rate. So 90 to 95%. And they're perfectly our ICP. They are director level and above, certain size companies, everything like that. And it's amazing tool. I think that's one of the biggest things right now, especially because we can't, like, optimizing based off performance. These platforms are struggling with it right now. Facebook and LinkedIn are struggling to optimize based off performance because lack of clicks sometimes and just consuming on platform, but also just cookie tracking issues. So being able to make sure you're targeting the right people from the get-go is huge. How do individual employee personal brands affect demand gen? Can it be measured? I think that's a really tough question. I think we're definitely using personal brands a lot more. I think more on the organic social side of things. So what Amber does. We have people we work with that have amazing personal brands that are huge fans of UserGems, and it generates a ton of demand. We have some people at other companies that never worked at UserGems, anything like that, but they're just such big fans of UserGems. There are advocates for us in forums or on LinkedIn posts. They'll be in the comment section, everything like that. And they've built up enough reputation for themselves that it actually can, they have enough pull to actually generate demand for us. So I think it's picking up a little bit heavier. I think Amber can probably speak to it more, but influencer marketing, basically. For me personally, I think personal brand for me, it's something that I'm working on. I don't think it's generating a bunch of demand right now through me or anything like that yet, but I definitely think it's something that could be impactful.
Yeah. And can it be measured?
It's tough to measure. I think we're experiencing that right now. Just like I said, I mean, there's so much where people, I've ran into people in Boise that have said they've seen me around on LinkedIn and everything like that, that are at companies that we could target, everything like that. So I know my content is being seen. I know a lot of people at our company post really heavily on LinkedIn and they're being seen a bunch. And it actually gets attributed as a source every once in a while. But attributing it down to a specific person is very, very difficult. I think a lot of the time it just gets chalked up to LinkedIn organic, or we saw your posts on LinkedIn or something like that, and that drives some traffic and demand.
It's that attribution trap again. You just can't figure it out.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm going to ask. Let's see. I'm going to ask a question from myself since I want an AMA too. I would love to know. So we get like a ton of leads from really great, well-known companies. But is there a company that just, if a lead came in, you would be like, I've accomplished something really great?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I think some of those have already happened. I think I don't think I can actually name names right now, but there's some companies that have already come through where, for instance, one of our AEs, Derek, as soon as the lead came through, I was like, I am amped about this one. Like, let me know how this goes, everything like that. And he actually screenshotted that message and sent it off to the lead before the call, just to like let him know. He's like, our director of demand gen is excited about this one. It was somebody in the e-commerce space, a big name in the e-commerce space that I was really excited about. Some of the big social platforms that are in the works, everything like that are really exciting to me. Just household names are always really fun.
Yeah. Hey, Isaac, we made it. All 30 minutes.
30 minutes.
You did it.
30 minutes.
That was great.
I don't know what the delay is like on this one, but if anybody has any quick questions, I'll stay on for another little bit to answer any other questions. But yeah, thanks for everybody that participated, shot some of these comments off. And yes, Kenny, thank you to those champion influencers. You guys are the best. On that note, we use a lot of customer quotes in our marketing just to help social proof things. But some of the things people say about UserGems are always awesome for the marketing team. We get some great material either through recordings or testimonials. But awesome. Great. And thank you, Amber, for hosting this and getting all the technical side of LinkedIn set up for us.
Oh, sure. It was only a little difficult thanks to LinkedIn.
I appreciate it. Awesome. Well, if anybody has any more questions, make sure follow UserGems LinkedIn page. We have if you ask on there, we have an amazing wealth of knowledge on our team that can answer your questions or get you on a demo call or anything like that. Or if you have any questions for me personally, shoot me a message and a connection on LinkedIn. I'll be happy to answer it. But go follow that LinkedIn page, and we'll see you for the next AMA.
Yeah. Thanks, y'all. Bye.
Bye.